Tommy Rees, new offensive coordinator, talked about establishing an offensive identity for the Browns this year.
I think there was a return to the commitment of running the football and finding ways to do it versus tough looks and advantageous looks. I think identifying who we want to be paired with what can we do up front, like what are we good at and who do we want to be, and finding out that mesh, like who we set out to be in February might not be exactly who we are today, but we've identified what we're good at, and I think identifying and then establishing a core set of this is what we can hang our hat on, and then this is what complements off of that is really important. And then you got to rep the hell out of it, and you got to commit time and effort to get to those points. And you know, to be a great running team, all 11 have to buy in. The quarterback has to buy into the mental side of it. The wide receivers have to buy into the physical side of it. And when you can build that amongst the group, then you can really start to run the ball well. And, you know, I feel like we've done, you know, a nice job up to this point of building that.
So welcome in Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the Barking Browns podcast. Jacob, you've probably heard me say this. I had no idea. I couldn't tell you what the Browns' identity was a year ago. The fact that they have an idea what that identity should be this year is a good thing. What do you think the identity they want to have is?
Yeah, they absolutely did not have one last year. Like, and anybody who thinks they did, they weren't watching the same teams we were watching, Dave. But you know, one thing that Tommy Rees comes out and says multiple times there, talks about running the football. I go back to 2020 and what the offense looked like with when Kevin first got here, and I know there's no Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, so I'm not like delusional when it comes to that. But, you know, establishing the run, some misdirection, play action, shot plays off of the play action, a lot of short, quick screen games, extensions of the run game, you know, a lot of the stuff that you saw with Baker Mayfield when he was under center, a lot of under center stuff, you know, what he did in 2020. And it was like they still took shot plays. Like they're going to call deep balls, but they're going to do a lot of like, you know, crossers and quick slants and things that, you know, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly and allow his playmakers in space to make plays. And then, you know, it's all going to start up front and with the running game and getting the running backs involved in the passing game and some of that quick stuff. So I think if you go look at what they tried to do 2020, run first, and then everything else plays off of that, that's kind of what I think they're looking to do this year.
How concerned are you about the offensive line, and what do you expect from them? And then I'll also include in that, how do you divvy up the carries in the running back department, at least early, until Judkins comes back and is on the field?
I'm not super concerned. The thing that I'm concerned about with the offensive line is durability. They're getting older. I mean, Jack Conklin was healthy last year, had, I thought, a pretty good season, but like before that, it had been multiple years before he had been able to play like that many games. And, you know, DeJuan Jones has had some durability issues. I know the one injury really wasn't his fault, like it was a freak kind of accident. But, you know, everybody from the left guard over is on the, you know, wrong side of 30. So I have a little bit of concerns about the durability. I like the depth behind them more than I think some other people do. So, I feel a little bit better in that sense where I didn't last year love the depth nearly as much as I don't think it was as good as it is this year. But I do think they will be better. I think the change in scheme, I think they're healthy. You got to remember going into the start of last year, their top three tackles were nowhere near 100%. You know, like Jack Conklin missed games and Jed was still banged up and DeJuan was still banged up. And it was just like they are healthier. And so it's transition back to that Kevin Stefanski scheme and what they're best at, I think they will be better. So I expect them to be good. Will they be great like they were several years ago? No, but I think they'll be average, above average, somewhere in that range, which will be significantly better than they were last year. But I don't necessarily think they'll be in the elite range. In terms of divvy up carries right now, I have heard they like Raheem Sanders quite a bit. I think early on he's still got to learn, you know, the undrafted rookie they claimed off waivers from the Chargers. But I think Jerome Ford probably, I kind of look at it 60-40, Ford and Sampson right now. I think they'll ride the hot hand. If one of them is really playing really well, they'll do it that way. But I think they'll look at it similar to the way they looked at kind of Chubb and Hunt, where it's like they're pretty close. One guy's going to get more carries. I think they'll let the veteran get a little bit more touches, a little bit more of that workload to make sure they don't overload Sampson. But I do think they'll have a pretty big workload for Sampson because I think they like him a ton as well.
I'm hoping they do divvy it up close to 50-50 because I think less of Ford will be more production from Ford, if that makes sense to you. I think he can be productive, but he's kind of his skill set is, he's a one-trick pony. That's the best way to say it, and a defense can adjust to him.